Right, so hey everyone and welcome back to another budget photography video. In this video I want to talk about full frame cameras and more specifically my brand new-ish main shooter, and that is the Canon 5D Mark II. So before I actually get into the review, why don't we go through some of its specs. So the Canon 5D Mark II has a 20 megapixel CMOS sensor with a max shutter speed of 1/8000th of a second and an ISO range of 100 to 6400, fully expandable from 50 to H2, which I'm not fully sure what that actual number even is. So yeah, it is a full frame DSLR, a digital single lens reflex camera. It is fully weather sealed. It takes Canon EF lenses, not EFS, Canon EF lenses, which is their full frame lenses. You have the EFS lenses and the EF lenses. EF lenses will work with an EFS camera, but EFS lenses won't work on an EF mount. It's just how they do it. They have crop lenses and full frame lenses. It takes CF cards or compact flash cards. You can get a converter, which I do have, so that it will then take a SD card. Canon also sell a SD card that has Wi-Fi, so if you put the Canon SD Wi-Fi card in an SD card in a CF card converter, into the camera, you can then get your pictures from your 5D straight to your mobile phone or tablet, which is a bonus. It would have been nice if it had inbuilt Wi-Fi, but it doesn't, mainly because of the time that it was released. It was released back in 2008, so this is now a fairly old camera, and it is starting to show its age a little bit, especially this one, with all the little, look, you've got loads of little scratches here, there and everywhere, but because it's got a magnesium alloy body, it doesn't really matter. It's a really tough camera. I mean, I could probably get a hammer to this thing and it would be okay. It can also shoot 1080p at 24, 25 and 30 frames per second. Would have been nice to have 60 frames per second at maybe 4K, but again, this is an older camera, so you're not really gonna get 4K. If you're looking for 4K, don't buy this camera. Just avoid it. Just avoid it. Anyway, now down to the review itself. You know what, I'm going to start off with some of its bad things, because this camera isn't perfect. No camera is. This definitely isn't. So let's go with video first. As I literally just said, there is no 4K, there is no 60 frames per second, there is only 20p, there is only 1080p at 24, 25 and 30 frames per second, which is still not too bad. Very, very cinematic. I'm currently shooting at, I believe, that frame rate. I can't remember my exact frame rate settings on here. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, and this is it. It's heavy. This is a full frame DSLR and it's metal, so it's heavy as shit. It is really, really heavy, especially compared to something like, well, this. This is a mirrorless camera. And even to my old 500D, that wasn't mirrorless, that was a DSLR, and okay, fair enough, that was a crop sensor camera, but it was a lot smaller. But this is heavy. Even when you bung a little lens on it, like a 50mm 1.8, it's still really, really heavy. Everything is bigger about this camera, including the batteries. The batteries are massive. And also the cards, the CF cards, like, it's an old camera, so it's got older technology in it. It takes CF cards. Who uses CF cards? Well, I do now, apparently, because I use the 5D Mark II. And another main downside to this camera is, and these cost a lot compared to an SD card. I think I paid like 30 quid for that, which is basically £1 a gigabyte, if not more. You can pick up an SD card at your local shop for like 15 quid now. So now onto the good stuff. Because this is Canon, you have Canon colors, you have Canon autofocus, and they are just as good as they have ever been. You also have Canon's EF lenses, which are really good. Yes, okay, this is 75 to 300, not best lens, but it's the one that I had in. Drop the body cap. But it's the one that I had with me because I've just done some filming. But there are loads of other lenses that go with the EF mount. And if they don't, then you can probably find an equivalent. There are lots of other lens manufacturers that will do a lens for a Canon, e.g. Sigma and Tamron, and there's probably some other really cheap knockoff ones that I'm going to cover in another video. That's going to be fun. And then because it is a full frame, you've got excellent low light ability because you've got a massive sensor and a really nice high ISO. Now personally, I wouldn't really go past 32,000. You probably can and get fairly decent images, but I just don't, because I just don't need to go that high, so I don't. But the images that I do get are really nice. Even at higher ISOs, it's still crisp, it's still clear, the colours are nice, the autofocus is really nice. Because the batteries are bigger, they last me a lot longer. Now again, going back to a few bad things, I would have liked in-body stabilisation, so stabilisation on the sensor itself rather than having to go out and buy separate lenses. But thanks Canon, I think they've now introduced IBIS into some of their other cameras, including their mirrorless cameras, and I think the 1DX Mark III has IBIS as well, but I'm not sure. But this has a lot of really nice features, even for someone that's just looking to get into full frame photography. Now yes, this does have a movie mode, but in today's standard it's not really the best. It has, as I said, 1080p, it has a mic input, but it doesn't have continuous autofocus, which is a bit of a bummer. Like this one does here. I mean, this one is a little bit newer than the 5D, but this has continuous autofocus, which is why I use it for video work, because it's just so much better. It means I haven't got to worry about, well, I obviously worry about framing, but I haven't got to worry about where I am sitting or standing, because I know that I'm going to be in focus, rather than having to set the focus and just sit dead still like I did with my old 500D. So, in summary, do I think the 5D Mark II is good in 2020? Yes. For 2020, the 5D Mark II will be a great camera. It has its downfalls, but for the occasional picture, and even if you are going professional or semi-professional with the 5D Mark II, definitely, it's still a very, very capable camera. I went out street shooting the other day and I walked into PC World and I had the 5D Mark II with me and a nifty 50 1.8. And I was just looking at the Sonys because I am debating whether to get one as a B camera. And the staff were more impressed with the 5D Mark II than they were with the Sony's A7s. So yes, if you want to go and buy the 5D Mark II, go and buy it. They're about £330 second hand if you buy the body alone, and then anything obviously more for the lenses. If you're paying more than 300, maybe 400 for the body alone, you're being ripped off, because they're really not worth that much. They're worth a lot of money, but not that much. If you're looking for something cheaper, then I would go with the 5D Mark I or the 5D, which has 12 megapixels and doesn't shoot really well. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.